Welcome to Trader UK, the money management channel. You know how it works by now. If you enjoy the content, smash the like button and leave us a comment below. If you don't enjoy the content, then just smash the like button anyway. Today I'm going to do a walkthrough of the 2019-2020 self-assessment tax return in the UK for self-employed individuals. That tends to include builders, plumbers, electricians, tradespeople in general, plus small business owners. The deadline for filing of this return is going to be the 31st of January 2021, so I hope you're all watching before then, otherwise most likely you're going to be incurring a penalty. Having said that, the layout doesn't tend to change much year by year, so you should be able to use this video for future filings as well. In a moment I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll walk through the process step by step. Before I do that though, I just need to point out a few assumptions that I'm going to be making throughout the video. First of all, this is not going to be financial advice. I'm just going to run through a hypothetical situation. If at any point you are unsure what you're doing, make sure you seek professional advice. Having said that, in the UK it's called a self-assessment. It's not an accountant's assessment. So the idea is that for the majority of people with simple tax affairs, they should be able to do this on their own. When I complete this tax return, the first assumption that I'm going to make is that you have been trading as a self-employed individual at some point between the dates 6th of April 2019 and 5th of April 2020. The second assumption I'm making is that you have a very basic setup. You have income from your customers and then you have some expenses that go with them. Fuel, tools, materials, and these types of things. Thirdly, you don't have any other sources of income to declare in the 2019-2020 tax year. Fourthly, you're going to be using the cash basis. Now that's a little bit of an accounting term, but basically it just means that we're going to record the income and the expenses on the date that they actually leave your bank account. And finally, you already have a government gateway ID. Now, if you don't have a government gateway ID, maybe this is your first year of trading, pause the video now, Google government gateway ID, fill out the form, and they will send you one out in the post. Now I'm going to share my screen with you and we can get started. Start by getting logged into your government gateway and then follow the blue links to file a return for the 1920 tax year. The return I submitted today took around 15 minutes. I'm going to play that recording, but I'm going to speed it up a little bit and then I'll talk over the top, giving you an idea of what you need to do. If you need more detail, just slow down and follow the steps that I'm going through. I'm going to brush over my personal details here and now we can start the return. This first section is just tailoring your return, so you'll just need to tick yes for any questions that do apply to you and it will generate the appropriate sections. The first question, were you an employee or director? No for this one in our example. It's going to be the second question that is for the self-employed individuals, and it's only if you had turnover more than £1,000. If you had less than that, then technically you don't need to declare it because it's just a hobby. You can also tell them how many self-employed businesses you had. If you did happen to have more than one, you let them know there, and you'll need to enter a name for your self-employment. Could be your own name, could be a genuine business name, plumber, electrician, whatever you want to put. Were you in a partnership with someone else? No in our example. Or did you receive any UK land and property income, rental properties, that kind of thing? Again, we're going to say no to everything else. Foreign income, no. Capital gains, selling shares, that kind of thing, no. And then work on to the next page. Page 2, still trying to find out what type of income you had. So the top question, did you receive any interest? If we're talking about 5-10 pence, don't worry about it. Interest rates are so low at the moment, you're probably not going to need to declare. Any dividend income? The second question, no. Receive any pension income? No. Or child benefit, you would click in this section, but for example, again, it's a no. Did you receive any other types of UK income, lump sums, that kind of thing? No in our example. Did you make any income tax losses? No. So we're still tailoring the return at this point. Pension savings tax charges, if maybe you've paid too much into your pension, as there is a limit. The third section, still tailoring your return here, but they're asking questions that would potentially get you some tax relief. Did you contribute to a pension, a private pension scheme? Did you give anything to charity? Can you claim the married couple's allowance if you're born before 1935? So just answer any of these that might apply to you. None of them will in our example. You can also transfer 10% of your personal allowance to your spouse. If either of you earn less than $12,500, this can be useful to save on your tax bill. Any other tax reliefs that you might want to claim. In our example, it's going to be no to all of these. Did you receive any tax refunded by Job Centre Plus? No. Did you have a tax advisor? You're completing your own return, so in this case, no. Have you used any avoidance schemes? No. Disguised remuneration is similar to tax avoidance schemes, so no. And are you acting on behalf of someone else? No, and continue. Now that you've actually tailored your return, you'll see that it's generated the right sections that you'll need to complete below. So you can actually work through, start from the top one, enter self-employment details, and that will take you through to actually completing your return. Now under this self-employment section, we're going to need to enter income and expenses for our self-employed business. They first ask you if you have turnover more than 85,000. If you do, tick the box, but they're going to ask you to register for VAT because it will become compulsory. And then below that, it's another tick box exercise, but you only tick boxes that apply to you, and 99.9% of the time, none of them will apply. So most people will be able to scroll straight down to the bottom because they're not barristers, they're not operating abroad, they're not claiming overlap relief, and you'll find one box that says none of these apply. Then you can save and continue. On this page, we'll need to give a little bit more information about the business. A few words in the description will be fine. You can give a postcode as well if you like, but it is optional, so I tend to not complete these boxes. If you've changed any details about the business, you can let them know here, but in this example, no. And if you started the business in this tax year, you'll have to give them the date there. You also need to tick to say that you haven't ceased trading in this tax year, and then continue. Now, with the date your books are made up to, technically you can choose any date, but it can get a little bit complicated if you choose a random date in the middle of the year. Most people tend to go with either the 31st of March 2020 or the 5th of April 2020. We're doing the cash basis, which means we'll include all transactions on the bank statements exactly up until that date. You also have another question below about using the cash basis, so just confirm that is the way we're going to do things, and then you can continue on to the next screen. Now we need to actually enter some figures for the self-employed business, but first of all you'll need to tick the top box to confirm that the information you're giving is accurate and honest. The turnover figure, the top one, is where you're going to put all your income for the year. So probably best to keep some records for this and total everything up in a spreadsheet. As my example, I'm using 50,000 as the income. All of that income goes in the top box, and then for the majority of people, the second two boxes won't apply, so they can just be left blank. And then below this, you have the option to enter your expenses as either a single total or as a detailed breakdown. It's completely up to you, but for ease, I'm going to enter all the allowable expenses as a single total, and 20,000 is going to be my example, which should leave us with a net profit of 30,000. This next section is for capital allowances, which we didn't have in our example, but this would be for anyone who has been buying plant and machinery for their business, maybe a new van, that kind of thing. They may need to detail it here, but for my example, I'm just going to skip straight past this section because we didn't have these expenses. If you take any goods from your business for your own personal use, maybe you're a plumber and you took one bathroom set to use at home, technically you should declare that here so it can be added back and then they'll tax you on the amount. In our example, we didn't have this, so I'm going to skip forward to the next section. If your self-employment has made a loss in this tax year, you can enter it in the top box, so they offset it against other income in the same year. You can also carry it back in the middle box or carry it forward in the bottom box. We've made a profit this year of 30,000, so I'm going to skip forward. If you do work in the construction industry and maybe you're working on site, quite often they'll deduct 20 or 30% from your pay before they pay you. If you've had that done, you need to enter it here so you don't end up being taxed on it twice. And if for any reason you have received notification to say that you are exempt from paying Class 4 national insurance, you would let them know here, but that is extremely unlikely, so I'll be ticking no to this box for our example. You can click on the top to find out more information about who would be exempt, but for the example, no. You're also given a bit of white space here. If you want to provide any extra information to HMRC, you can do. And that brings us on to the summary of our self-employment business, exactly what we inputted. The 50,000 income less 20,000 expenses gives us 30,000 profit. You won't see anything mentioned here about the deduction for CIS. That comes later. And at the bottom, if you want to add more businesses, maybe you have 2 or 3 self-employments, you do that here. This screen is just to let you know that over a certain amount of profit, you need to pay Class 2 national insurance of £3 per week. Anything less than that, and it's up to you whether you want to make the contributions or not. In this example, I'm going to say no to making voluntary contributions. And then to complete the return, you just have a few tick box exercises confirming that the amounts are correct. No overpaid PAYE. For all of these, you're just going to agree 0 is correct and then move forward. Same again on the next question. 0 is the correct figure, yes, and then you can move forward. And for the third one, you'll normally need to enter a 0 into that box, unless HMRC have sent you correspondence to say otherwise. If for any reason you are due a repayment, you can enter details here of who receives that repayment. In our case, we made a profit, so it's not going to be applicable, and move forward. And when you have a tax bill, they always give you these 2 options to have the amount collected via PAYE code. The same for overcharges on child benefit and these types of things. But I always just say no to these boxes. And in our example, we will do as well and move forward. You can make adjustments on this screen, but for the majority of people, they're going to be optional anyway and they won't apply. So you can leave them blank and then move forward to the next screen. Does the return contain any provisional figures? No, you should be saying to this one, they're all final figures. And then again, you have some white space to give some extra information if you really wanted to. You can also attach documents to your return if it's going to help with the filing. On this check your return screen, just have a scroll through and read that everything sounds correct, that you've tailored your return correctly and filled out the right sections. Check below to make sure you've entered and completed all the different sections as well. And finally, we have a summary of our actual tax bill. So you can see here on our self-employment profits, it's calculated we owe £3,423.12. Below that, you'll also see that they want a payment on account of £1,711, given a total due of £5,134.68 that needs to be paid by the 31st of January. Scroll down and you'll see they want a second payment on account by the 31st of July, and that just means that by the time you get to next year's tax return, there shouldn't, assuming that the figures are similar, there shouldn't really be much of a tax bill. If for any reason you think your situation is going to be different next year, you can reduce your payments on account here by selecting yes. You'll enter the amount that you want the payments on account to be and then give them a reason why. So let's say you weren't going to have any income next year, then you'll just enter the detail in these boxes to let them know, and then it will remove those extra payments on account for you. Before you submit the return, you're given a chance to save a copy or print a copy. I always recommend keeping a copy stored locally. Declare that all the information you have given is accurate to the best of your knowledge by ticking the tick box. And then that's it completed, nice and easy. All you need to do is enter your government gateway ID again and it will submit the return for you. That's everything for today, guys. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions and I'll see you all next time.